Alright, friends, welcome to Classics in Color, your weekly dive into some of the ancient world's wackiest facts. I'm Mark Graves, and today we will be taking a look at some of the ways that ancient religion affected warfare. The source for today's video is a book called Structure and History in Greek Myth and Ritual by Walter Burkett, and there's so much in this book that we are not going to unpack today. We are just going to be focusing in on this one topic of how religion affected war. So the first example is very famous. You've probably heard of it already, but at one point in time there was this king named Croesus who consulted the oracle at Delphi and asked them, should I go to war with the Persians? I really want to. I've been thinking about it for a while, but it's a risky endeavor. What do you say? And they sent their response back that if you go to war with the Persians, you will destroy a great power. And he takes this as a giant thumbs up, and he goes to war with the Persians and ultimately ends up destroying a great power himself. His own kingdom falls and the Persians win. And the sort of moral of this story that people usually take away is that oracles are riddly and confusing, and you need to be very cautious when you interpret them. But this did not discourage people in the ancient world at all from continuing to consult oracles regularly. And we have many other stories of people using oracles and manipulating the oracles to their own advantage. So let's take a look at one of those. When the Ionians came to colonize Asia, Canopus from the family of Codrus made war on those who held Erythrae. The god gave him an oracle that he should get the priestess of Enodia from Thessaly as his general, and he sent an embassy to Thessaly and informed them about the oracle. They sent him Chrysime, the priestess of the goddess. She was an expert in drugs. She took the biggest and finest bull from the herd, had his horns gilded and his body adorned with fillets and purple cloth stitched with gold, and she mixed into his food a drug which provokes madness and made him eat it. The drug drove the bull mad and would drive mad also whoever ate from him. Now the enemy was encamped on the opposite side. The priestess set up an altar and implements for sacrifice in full view of the enemy and gave orders to lead the bull along. But the bull, driven mad by the drug and filled with frenzy, made a sally and fled toward the enemy, bellowing loudly. The enemy, when they saw a bull with gilded horns adorned with fillets, hurrying from the sacrifice of the adversaries toward their own camp, took this to be a good sign and an omen of good fate. They seized him, sacrificed him to the gods, and eagerly ate his meat, each of them as if partaking of a demonic or divine sacrament. At once, the whole army rose in a state of madness and insanity. They jumped up, ran hither and thither, began to dance, left their posts. When Chrysime saw this, she told Canopus to call his army to arms at once and to lead them against the enemies who were unable to defend themselves. And thus Canopus killed them and became master of Erythrae. Finally, there is a story about the time that the Dorians invaded Attica, or the region around Athens. So this happens about 1200 BC-ish. They are in the process of invading Attica when there is this prophecy that is given that they will not be able to conquer Athens if they kill this man named Codrus. So Codrus is the king of Athens. At this point, Athens still had kings. We weren't to the democracy yet. But if they kill the king, basically then they will lose the war. So Codrus hears this prophecy, and with noble self-sacrifice, he dresses himself up as a lowly slave and he sneaks into the enemy camp and starts a fight. He gets into a brawl and he ends up getting killed. He dies. And when the Dorians figure out what has happened, that they have killed the king, they are totally freaked out and they leave. They give up, they go home. So it didn't work out personally well for Codrus. He's dead, but it did work out well for the city of Athens, and he did manage to play and manipulate the prophecy in his favor. So those are some of the coolest, most interesting stories that I could find on this topic, but obviously there's so many more stories about oracles in the ancient world. Absolutely let me know what your favorites are. I just think it's so interesting and strange how, on the one hand, the ancient Greeks and Romans think oracles are so important, they will spend so much money and effort on them, and at the same time, they are perfectly capable of recognizing that you have almost no hope of knowing whether or not your oracle is legit or fake, or of, even if your oracle is legit, you have no prayer of interpreting it correctly. So I'm just not sure why they value them so much, but it's very strange, it's very interesting. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Special thank you as always to subscribers and to Patreon members, and I hope to see all of you again next week. Karate.